there much later in the course of the program. Good to see you, sir.
Good to see you.
How are you?
Quite well.
Hey, it's been a while.
Yes, it's been a while. As usual, the politics up and down. So sometimes you do cat and mouse. Now you see me, now you don't.
That is a strategy of keeping alive.
Yes.
Yeah, as far as politics is concerned.
Yes.
Right, and we shall be looking at what has been happening as far as the fight on corruption is concerned. And this also is a major headlines in some of our dailies, of course also the Daily Nation as well. We want to drill deeper on that a bit. Let's begin with the Daily Nation, looking at the good, the bad and the ugly in our dailies today. This is what is headlining the front page of the Daily Nation. Graft, Sonko and Waititu and the probe, it says. Also under the spotlight is housing PS Hinga and several officials linked to dam scandal. It's all about governance. Nairobi governor faces questions over source of the cash he splashes around. His Kiambu counterpart will field abuse of office queries. This is what we have on the front page of the Daily Nation today. It says the story is tucked away on page 5 of the Daily Nation today. Also under the spotlight is housing PS Hinga and several officials linked to dam scandal. Is a flag on top there on the front page of the Daily Nation today. MPs reject KQ takeover bid of City Airport. It says instead they advise that the loss-making national carrier be exempted from paying taxes so it can remain afloat in a highly competitive aviation market. The airline had applied to take over the management of Jomo Kenyatta International Airport for 30 years. But a parliamentary committee recommends its nationalization. This story continues on the back page of the Daily Nation this morning. Also, still on the front page of the Daily Nation, D+ trainee teachers sent home. It's all about affirmative action plan by former Education CS Amina Mohammed was illegal, it says. This is according to courts. And can limping Liverpool do it? Also, you can follow that story inside the sports pages of the Daily Nation today. Mwadede gets a year's extension. Kenya Navy officer to remain at the helm of KDF is a story that you want to follow also on page 8 of today's Daily Nation. Let's move on to see what we have on the front page of the Standard. Magoha's Shoka for universities is a splash today. The next 84 days are crucial in reforming higher education by reviewing programs. This story continues on page 4 of the Standard today. What the audit will cover. Qualifications of lecturers ensure qualified tutors are teaching right courses. Also relevance of degree programs could see scrapping of unpopular courses that do not match job demands. Workforce in the universities concerns academic staff are only a third of employees could lead to job losses for low cadres. Also, proposal to rationalize existing universities. Some 57 satellite campuses have been closed for lacking students. On facilities to guide allocations of public resources to universities to address congestion. That is a story that 11 counties spending goes away beyond Waititu's. That is on budget, and they're all listed here. County number 1 is Kakamega, coordination of State House function. Approved budget is given there. The actual also payment is 60 million. Like Laikipia teacher management primary also is given there. Kitui and Nyeri as well. You can follow all that also inside the Standard today. Let's move on to see what we have on the front page of the Star. And this is what you're waking up. This is what you're waking up looking at today. The Star investigates Oko team over audit reports. It says this is the Council of Governors saying this. Investigate Oko team over audit. Governors demand the ESCC and DCI probe rogue auditors allegedly soliciting bribes from counties in exchange of favorable reports on their finances. Auditor says report objective, adhere to standards. Governors demand the ESCC and DCI probe rogue auditors allegedly soliciting bribes from counties in exchange of favorable reports on their finances. They're all shown here on the front page of the Daily Nation. not really the Daily Nation, but the Star. Governor set to be grilled by the Senate. You can follow this story inside the Star. Also, job cuts, mergers loom as cash-strapped varsities struggle to survive. The state has ruled out giving universities more cash. Education CS George Magoha yesterday said varsities should consider mergers, staff reduction, and doing research. Also, Mutua orders Shalom Hospital closed after death of 7-year-old boy. The Shalom Community Hospital in Machakos was closed on Monday after the death of a boy with a ban who was wrongly given a morphine injection. That is a story you can follow on page 3. Also, another 8 counties budget for State House similar to Kiambu's. 8 more counties made bizarre locations in their budgets similar to those of Kiambu County, shining the spotlight on expenditure by the devolved units. This story continues on page 6 of the Star this morning. Let's see what we have inside the People Daily, or on the front page of the People Daily today. Obado trial, remember it resumes today. Sharon family's red flag hearing on the killing of Rongo University student starts amid apprehension over ODDP's decision to drop conspiracy to murder charge, but prosecution allays fears. That should be ODPP, and the story continues on page 6 of the People Daily. Ouko exposes 4 other counties with weird budgets. Kakamega, Kitui, Nyeri, and Laikipia governors to face Senate grilling. And also a boy is born to Harry and Meghan. Right, the royal baby is here, and you can follow the story on page 14 of the People Daily this morning. Let's move on and see what we have on the front page of the Business Daily. And this is your splash today on the front page of the Business Daily. Bear Nairobi Securities Exchange sinks a third of insurers into 8.5 billion shillings loss. 16 firms posted straight pre-tax losses, while 10 of them had lower 2018 profits. And it says a third of insurance companies plunged to a combined pre-tax loss of 8.5 billion shillings, hurt by the high cost and bearish Nairobi Securities Exchange market and other factors which conspired to sink the sector in a 68% dip in profitability last year. This story continues on page 4 of the Business Daily this morning. Also, 27 listed firms failed transparency and risk control test. It says here nearly half of the firms listed on the NSE have corporate governance failures. An audit by the regulator has shown, exposing the risk of capital loss that investors face. A new report by the Capital Markets Authority shows that 27 firms, an equivalent of 44% of the companies listed on the bourse, are in breach of diverse corporate governance requirements such as transparency. For instance, 10 of the companies have failed to submit their annual reports and an internal review of the corporate governance processes. And you can follow the rest of the details on page 4 of the Business Daily today. Also, here is a list of the governance ranking. 3 banks had highest rating on leadership, on leadership. It's given it the ratings: a good, fair, subpar, unrated. This is from Nairobi Security Exchange firms and debt issuers. And the source, of course, this is actually Nairobi Security Exchange firms and debt issuers, and the source is Capital Markets Authority. You can follow the rest of the story on page 4 of the Business Daily. That is a requirement also that good corporate governance is installed in every Nairobi listed or Nairobi Securities Exchange listed companies here. Also, reprieve for business as mediation cuts case settlement to 2 months. The judiciary's arbitration and mediation program has slashed the time it takes to settle cases in Kenyan courts to about 2 months. A review shows offering relief for businesses and individuals hard hit by lengthy and costly litigations. This story continues on page 4 of the Business Daily. Still on the front page of the Business Daily, manufacturers freeze hiring, signal layoffs is another story. The majority of Kenya's factories have frozen fresh recruitments amid uncertainty in regulatory and trade environments. An industry survey suggests. You can follow this story on page 7 of the Business Daily today. Still on the front page of the Business Daily, NOS enrollment halved as reforms takes place is also another story you can follow on page 12 and 13. Diaspora inflows hit 67 billion shillings in Q1. Kenyans living and working abroad sent home 67.16 billion in the first 3 months of the year, underlying the dependability of the inflows of an importance to the economy, that is page 19. My mouth this morning is still waking up, still booting. But this is how the Business Daily looks on today. Make sure you grab a copy of that. Also, we have a standalone picture here. I'll be remiss if I don't mention it. And this is Dream Disrupted trainee teachers at Shanzu Teachers College head home yesterday following a court directive revoking the admission of students with D and C minus grades for certificate and diploma training. And that story also, you can follow it inside the Business Daily this morning. We cross the borders now to Tanzania and pick up now the Citizen to see what is headlining the front page of the Citizen. This is your splash today. IMF local experts to discuss growth data is a story that you want to follow. The decision to hold further consultations in the coming weeks was reached after President John Pombe Magufuli and International Monetary Fund Director for Africa, Abebe Ayemro Selassie, held talks at State House, Dar es Salaam yesterday. The story continues on page 2 of the Citizen this morning. Government scraps charges on boreholes is another story that you can follow on page 2 of the Citizen. Emotional scenes as Mengi's body arrives home for the final journey. This is how the crowd massed yesterday. This is how the crowd massed just to behold this particular hearse that is bearing the body of Mengi. It says here, a crowd surges towards the hearse carrying the body of a late industrialist, philanthropist and media magnate Reginald Mengi at Kigogo, Dar es Salaam, as it drove from Julius Nyerere International Airport to Lugalo Military Hospital yesterday. Mengi, who died in Dubai on May the 2nd, will be buried in Machame High District on Thursday. And this story continues on page 3 of the Citizen in Tanzania. Also, fresh call on natural resources. The government and the World Bank partnered to produce the country environmental analysis, which indicates the resources such as forests, freshwater, fisheries, land, and wildlife are under threat. That story continues on page 2. That is the story that you want to follow on page 2 as well. Let's see what also we have on the Swahili version of the Citizen. TRA yatangaza hakuna biashara itakayofungwa. Uamuzi wowote sasa kutoka kwa idhini maalum. That is the story that you can follow on page 4 of Mwananchi. Rais Magufuli akutana na bosi wa IMF Dar es Salaam, and you can see also that same picture that we had on the front page of the Citizen is here also on the front page of Mwananchi as well. This is a hearse bearing the body of Reginald Mengi, who will be buried on Thursday in Tanzania. Let's see what is happening in Uganda, and this is what you're waking up to according to the front page of the Daily Monitor. 50% don't want Museveni on ballot. That is according to a new poll there. The opinion poll conducted by Research World International, which reached out to 2,042 respondents in 60 districts, however, found out that the ruling NRM party still sees President Museveni as right choice. This story continues on page 4 and 5 of the Daily Monitor. Also, blessings. It's a miracle to be alive, says Kadaga. And we can see religious leaders praying for the Speaker of Parliament, Ms. Rebecca Kadaga, during the Thanksgiving prayers at Bugembe Cathedral in Jinja District on Sunday. Ms. Kadaga described her recuperation after being admitted to Aga Khan Hospital in Nairobi as miraculous. You can follow this story on page 3 of the Daily Monitor if you're waking up in Uganda this morning. Let's cross over now to Rwanda and we see what the New Times is holding for us. Central Bank lowers key repo rate to spur lending. The National Bank of Rwanda has revised the key repo rate from 5.5% to 5% in a move designed to boost lending to the private sector. The repo rate is the maximum rate at which commercial banks invest their money at the central bank. The development was announced by the central bank governor John Rwandan yesterday, shortly after the Monetary Policy and Financial Stability Committee meetings. This story continues on page 3 of the New Times. In Rwanda, Nzove water plants get upgraded. And you can see also the Prime Minister there, Edward Ngirente, and Infrastructure Minister, Ambassador Clever Gatete, together with other officials on a guided tour of Nzove water treatment plant by the Chief Executive of WASAC, that is Aime Muzola. The upgrades will see the water produced at Nzove catchment area increase to 105,000 cubic meters. This story continues on page 3 of the New Times. Also, Road Safety Week launched with call for responsible usage of roads. This story also, you can follow the gritty details on page 16 of the New Times if you're waking up in Rwanda this morning. Let's see also what is on the front page of this week's The East African. And this is how it looks this week, the front page of the East African. Not again. Juba principals bent on blocking peace. Not again. Juba principals bent on blocking peace. That is the abiding question. And to the darkness, South Sudan's leaders differ on forming transitional government by May the 12th, which President Kiir paying former U.S. envoy Michael Ranneberger $3.7 million to block the hybrid court. South Sudan's leaders differ on forming transitional government by May the 12th, with President Kiir paying former U.S. envoy Michael Ranneberger $3.7 million to block the hybrid court. You can follow all these details inside the East African this week, where you have the full report. Also, Kenya now defies Dar on Mara dams is another story. Water Minister insists the two projects are part of a joint ventures. This story is tucked away on page 3 of the East African this week. Mengi, a poor boy who built an empire. Read about his story on page 2. And also bad eating habits, world's bigger killer. Also, this is inside the Outlook magazine, a magazine that comes in handy for you inside the East African every week. I want to show you also the editorial cartoons that we do have today. And this is what has been drawn by... This is Waititu and Ruto. Kiambu audit reports, and it says easy, act like it is not stinky. This is what we have on the front page, not really the front page, but inside the Daily Nation today, according to Victor. And of course, this is highlighting the story of Kiambu as far as those bizarre budgets were concerned. Shall give you also that particular report, the latest development on it as well. Let's move on and to see what also has been drawn by Steno, and this is what Steno has drawn for us. Try and grab that quickly for you. Inside the People Daily today, what will we do without our daily tonics of our cartoonists who make sure that at least we have a laugh or a smile in the morning. And this is how it looks. The DPP and the DCI and the ESCC, the graft is ballooning. You can see, of course, this is personifying the corruption in the country. Is it growing too big for these investigative bodies? That is a probing question. And you can see also the wads of cash just jetting out from the briefcase there. This is what Steno has drawn for us inside the People Daily today. So make sure you grab a copy of the dailies for this interesting editorial cartoons as well. And of course, the headlines today. Graft, Sonko and Waititu. And the probe is what is headlining the front page of the Daily Nation today. It's all about governance. Nairobi governor faces questions over source of the cash he splashed around. His Kiambu counterpart will field abuse of office queries. And this story continues on page 5 of the Daily Nation today. Also under the spotlight is housing PS Hinga and several officials linked to dams scandal. That is a story there on the front page of the Daily Nation this morning. Right, let's just begin with this sad story from Shalom Hospital, and the investigations revealed that 7-month-old baby Ethan Mwendo, who died at the Shalom Community Hospital in Machakos, was injected with an overdose of morphine. Investigators from the Kenya Medical Practitioners and Dentists Board revealed that a patient attendant, not even a qualified nurse, administered morphine 20 times the dose recommended for his tender age. Gladys Kashanja has more on this.
For baby Ethan Mwendo's parents, the horror began with a minor accident at home. He suffered a mild scald from hot water from the dispenser he was playing with. But their journey to the Shalom Hospital for answers marked the beginning of a new grim journey of grief. 2 hours after baby Ethan was given an injection to calm him down, he breathed his last. The search for answers led the family and investigators from the Kenya Practitioners and Dentists Board to the hospital, where they spent about 2 hours in closed-door meetings.
I have members of County Assembly.
When they emerged, the truth about what they found was shocking.
It was thought necessary that the child should be given medication to prevent or reduce the pain that may come with the dressing. Now, that said, medication was prescribed, and it's called morphine. So according to the proprietary prescription, that should require 1 milligram. So when the child received 20 milligrams, it ties up with what happened, because the child went drowsy, went home sleepy, was brought back a while later, still very sleepy, but in that process of time, the child was lost.
2 staff members from the hospital have been arrested in connection with the incident and have recorded statements with the police.
We are calling for the arrests of the following individuals to be charged with various crimes, which may include manslaughter, the doctor in charge of this Shalom Hospital, the hospital administrator of this hospital, the patient attendant who actually undertook that injection, the clinical officer who prescribed medicine that he should not have prescribed, the pharmacist in charge who should have known better, and the directors and proprietors of this hospital.
We're placing charges against them. We're going to court, and I'm assuring everybody it will never happen again. I'll push till justice is reached for me and for other people.
And therefore, I'm ordering for the closure of this hospital. We are giving the hospital until 6 p.m. this evening to clear with the patients who are under treatment currently, but the hospital should not undertake any new patients.
This incident comes barely a month after a woman delivered a baby on the floor at Shalom Hospital's Athi River branch as the nurses were reportedly on a tea break. A conclusive report on the investigations into that incident is expected this Friday.
With the outpatients expected to get their service by 6 p.m. before the hospital is closed down, those that are getting attended to as inpatients are expected to be transferred to the Level 5 hospital of this county and in Kathiani, where they will get free medical service. Gladys Kashanja, NTV.
Very unfortunate there. But let's get a better understanding about the drug morphine. First, what is it? Morphine is a very strong painkiller, and it's used to treat severe pain such as after an operation or a serious injury. It's also used to treat pain from cancer. It is only available on prescription. And how does morphine work? Well, it blocks pain signals in the body from traveling along the nerves to the brain. Morphine does have side effects, and as with any medication, some are milder than others, such as constipation or feeling sick, to more serious side effects such as breathing difficulty and seizures. Who can actually take the drug? Morphine can in fact be taken by children and adults of all ages, but babies and older people are more likely to suffer from side effects an accidental overdose can be extremely dangerous. In rare cases, it is possible to have a serious allergic reaction towards morphine, and it's not a drug that is suitable to everyone. Well, our panelists, of course, we do have as well medics. I want to introduce our panelists this morning. We have with us Dr. Otende Amolo, who is a member of parliament from Rarieda. Also, we do have with us Dr. Eseli Simiu, who is a member of parliament from Tanzanian, also a consummate pediatrician. We do have with us as well nominated senator. This is Isaac Mwaura. We have Bonnie Khalwale, who is the deputy leader of Ford Kenya. We do have with us as well Jacomedio, who is a former member of parliament of GEM. Aaron Cheriot and Kimani Wamatangi today are missing. They're actually on official duties outside the country. But let's just begin with Dr. Eseli on this, because you are actually a pediatrician. What really went wrong here? And we are given to understand also we had someone who's unqualified administering this particular injunction.
I think I saw Professor Fred Were at the scene, who is also a very renowned pediatrician in this country. I think the use of morphine needs to be regulated better. At least by the time I was practicing, morphine was not prescribed by people who are not qualified doctors. It was one of those under the Dangerous Drugs Act, because actually it's an opiate. That means the opium class of drugs, and you don't just use it at random and then give the child and send them home. I think that's a drug that should be used under observation, not when the child is being sent home. Secondly, the reason why it was being prescribed, I don't think was justified, because if the burn was just a little burn on the hand, if it's very superficial burn, it tends to be very painful because it's at the nerve ends. Mm-hmm. But one can get an alternative painkiller other than morphine, because another risk is that morphine is addictive. If you use it for too long, too frequently, it can also cause to dependence. So I think it's all wrong the way that morphine was used, and I think the Pharmacy and Poisons Board needs to up their game to ensure that they control these so-called dangerous drugs, which fall under the Dangerous Drugs Act. They should actually control the availability and the users who can prescribe them, mm-hmm. and who can dispense them. Like in this case, the people who prescribed and dispensed had no business near morphine.
And it seems that was the norm until we had this particular unfortunate event.
Yeah, that seems to be the norm. And I think we need to the Medical Practitioner and Dentist Board and the Pharmacy and Poisons Board need to up their game and control these drugs. Mm-hmm. Otherwise, if they get in the wrong hands, they can be misused. And like in this case, leading to death of a minor, a small child. Mm-hmm. It's wrong. I think the action that has been taken is right. To at least insist that people in the medical profession maintain high standards of professionalism, especially now that many Kenyans are relying on private healthcare rather than public healthcare, because they feel that the public healthcare has virtually broken down. So many people tend to go to the private sector. Now, if they are going to go to the private sector, and instead of being treated by qualified people, they are treated by quacks, then that is very dangerous.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Dr. Khalwale.
I would like to congratulate Professor Were and Governor Mutua for the tough action they've taken. However, they have left out the matron and whoever runs the pharmacy department of that nursing home. Strictly speaking, just to add on what Dr. Eseli said, one, the matron should be charged with negligence because she's the one who allowed in her ward a person who is not a qualified nurse not only to give injections to that child, but also be in charge of that session of the ward on this particular day. Number two, the person who allowed, and this should have been the pharmacist of the nursing home, who allowed somebody less qualified to dispense morphine to that unqualified nurse, again, should be charged. I doubt that this nursing home has got a qualified pharmacist. Majority of our nursing homes are run by quacks. In this case, the girl who administers, or the boy who administers the morphine was not a qualified nurse, a quack. The person who dispensed morphine from the pharmacy of the nursing home was not a pharmacist, a quack. So it's a question of, again, the Kenya Medical Practitioners Advantage Board asking itself, the nursing homes that we have in the country, how well equipped are they with the medical staff? Finally, morphine is a drug of addiction. And by law, it cannot be dispensed by anybody who is not a qualified pharmacist, meaning this person has been in the medical school and has qualified with a degree in pharmacy.
Thank you. Dr. Otene Molo.
Well, I associate with my colleague's sentiments for the unfortunate death of baby Ethan Mwendo. But for me, it raises three distinct issues. The first issue is the question of regulation. And sadly, I think this is a knee-jerk reaction. Regulation should be systematic and not episodic. We do not know how many other institutions of treatment have had similar lapses, but that team cannot rush to those institutions in equal manner or all the time. So I think what it begs, therefore, is that to the extent that the national government chose to devolve health to the counties, the health regulators, that is the Kenya Medical Practitioner Dentist Board, together with the counties, should devise a more concrete method of supervision and regulation and to avoid an episodic reaction. But secondly, it is of course of great concern that you have a situation where the morphine was not only so loosely and easily available, but was actually being administered by a person who's not a trained health worker. Now that raises very fundamental issues. And thirdly, while I agree that in such an event, it is important to take drastic action as was taken, we must nevertheless still step back and ask ourselves, do you want to allow the governor, in this case the governor of Machakos, to appear to wield powers which he may not quite have? The power to close health institutions. Two things, and then the power to order the arrest of all those people who are listed. Sometimes even well-meaning actions can end up being an impediment. I think while the governor's action in terms of quickly going to the scene and doing some of the things he did was good, to the extent that, as reported, that he ordered the arrest of a host of people, that is not the work of the governor. That is the work of the DPP after investigation. But it is important to raise the improprieties that happened, because when then it is examined, just as Dr. Halwale was indicating, you might actually find that some of the most culpable persons are not even named in that list. So it requires us to have a very clear and concerted effort, and therefore to also ask the question, what is the mode of regulation? And any health facility that does not adhere to those regulations, who has the power to order its closure? Is it the county government? Is it the county governor? Is it the Kenya Medical Practitioners and Dentists Board? Or who else is it? So that we do not end up in a situation where we wait until there's a tragedy, then we, as a knee-jerk reaction, order the closure. It should be a continuous regulation where such institutions that flout the law then are routinely either condemned or closed.
Let's hear from Isaac Maura. Good morning.
Morning, Debarl. I'm not a medical professional in that regard, but I want just to say that it is very, it's very clear in this country there are so many quacks that are masquerading as doctors, as whatever other medical, qualifications they may claim to have. I mean, you remember the very famous case of Mugo Irimo,
yes,
sometimes back, and how he used to abuse women in his clinic in Resambo. So really there is a challenge there, and it means that then we need to have a closer supervision. And especially now that this is a devolved county, issue. So we may also need to look at whether there are some, issues to do with the law that needs to be looked at, especially from a Senate point of view, because when you have a situation where, a governor is forced to close a hospital, is it procedural and all of that? But it is just not a question of the counties. If you look at the standard today, it is very clear that over 80 babies die every week at the Kenya International Hospital. So really, even as we look at the universal health care, these are some of the challenges that I would want to say that are affecting our people. And possibly, Debarl, part of the reason why we are having increased cases of cancer could be because of the way people are being misdiagnosed and also being given medications that may not necessarily help them.
Okay. Yeah. Right. Jacomedio, good morning.
Good morning, good morning.
Yes.
I think it's tragic, Debarl, but I will take the lead of Chediamolo, where it seems to be saying that Mutua was wrong. I actually think Mutua, when we want to devolve health, I think we need to do it fully. We need to further the laws, given advantage of the tragic incident. and I think the governors need to have a say in what happens in this health institution. If there is a law we need to do, I think the people who are elected here, they need to move from a show and initiate proper laws. Because I think you can't have quacks without laws. I don't think we have enough laws that can criminalize these quacks. Personally, I don't even know what morphine is. Bonnie tells me it's it is an addictive substance. So why can't we just criminalize it? And why can't we just say properly in law who can prescribe it? I think we can get there as a people. We can get there as a people. It's unfortunate. I don't think it's good. It's good debate to talk about it so much, but just criminalize and prescribe whoever can give people that drug, because apparently it's an addictive painkiller, and I think they do it to get away from the law or to try to treat our people, unfortunately. So I think we can do better.
All right. But I think even as we are on this as well, it's good also to highlight the findings of the health committee that went to the coast to inspect the mobile clinics. And we realized that a lot of the equipment there, they have been pilfered so far. And this is running, I don't know to how many years right now since we had the mobile clinic scandal up to date. We don't know what is really happening. The containers are rusting there in that particular yard. What is actually a parliament doing about this? Despite the fact that we had now this health committee going there, but it's been slow on the uptake. We've never understood what really went down, what went wrong.
I think what happened in this case was that the case was referred to the EACC. And once with our investigations, it was not possible for the ministry to move the containers. But so far the case has been, I think, either they have been given the go-ahead to move them because the EACC has completed their investigations. I think it will be worthwhile to say that while the whole idea of getting those containers was wrong, but now that they got them, Kenyans lost money. I don't think we should therefore continue to lose, including the containers. Now that they are there, they should be distributed and put to use.
distributed, but they say some of the equipment have been stolen, the microscopes are missing, some of very vital equipment for the mobile clinic. They are not there.
I was there at the inspection.
You were there?
Yes, and what we were informed was that about 11 of them have been deployed. And in the course of deploying them, some equipment was taken to equip those whatever containers that were deployed, and there are most of them deployed in Nairobi, which we'll also go and visit. So we can't quite say what is
was
missing.
there any document, or you just took it, word of mouth?
It's
Was
not,
there any paper trail?
It's not easy to say what is lost and what is available until they are deployed. Then we can inspect each of them and see whether all the equipment is there. Because right now to say the equipment is not there is because we didn't see the what you would call the list of the equipment that was supplied. So we can't quite say. What we saw are empty containers.
So why weren't the list supplied?
I think it's a fault on the part of the ministry not to avail the full list. They showed us what should be in each container. We have that.
But now you are actually going.
I'm saying this carefully.
No, you as a committee, you are actually going to sort of to grope in the dark. You don't have any
I'm saying this
documentation.
very carefully,
yes,
because this is something under the committee's investigation, and it will be wrong for me to preempt whatever the findings will be on a national TV station. That's why I'm very careful as to what I would say about it. I would think that give it some time. We are going to give the report of what we'll have found, because it will be wrong for me here to start giving the report on national TV, yet one, I'm not the chair of the committee, two, we've not completed the work.
But we're not looking at the content of the report. We're just wondering from, from the get-go how you are going about with this sort of investigation that you're doing.
We went and looked at 60% of the containers that were open. We were able to get in there and see each of the containers, 60% of them. And we thought that was a fairly representative sample. So from that, we'll make a report.
Right.
I think it will. I think those who understand parliamentary standing orders, my colleagues here would understand where I'm constrained as to what I can say and what I can't say.
Let's hear from Halwale on this as well. So yeah, inspecting 60 containers against 60% of the containers without any documentation. How will you know what is supposed to be here and what is not supposed to be here?
I think we had documents showing what each container should have, but they were not deployed into each container.
Okay.
They were lumped into some containers, which will be taken from there to equip other containers.
All right, let's hear from
when the issue of those mobile clinics hit headlines in this country, it was clearly a big scandal, and we would have expected that parliamentary committees and parliament in general would move with speed. The fact that many months, almost years after the scandal came to be, the report is yet to be concluded, leaves only one question begging, i.e., that could it be that Parliament is dragging its feet because of the people who are suspected to be involved in the scandal? Because we understand members of the families of some of the bigwigs in the country were involved in this scandal. So we want to urge colleagues, members of Parliament, don't announce it on TV, but please, as soon as probably this week, next week, table the report. We want to see the contents.
All right, but we can see the government has taken a position as far as this is concerned, looking at the My Government in the Standard as well. But let's hear from Dr. Otenda Molo.
Well, first of all, and let's restate this here and now, because Dr. Alwale has done this too many times. Dr. Alwale served in Parliament for 3 terms, but he has this habit of anything that comes, then he blames the current serving members of Parliament for either failure or some commission, for omission or commission. And in all fairness, I think whenever you do that, Dr. Alwale, you must remember that some of these things you are equally culpable. As a matter of fact, the portable clinics we are talking about arrived in December 2015. By then, you were still a senator. And so the things that you're advising us to do, you could have done either at the stage of the budgeting or at the stage when this scandal actually broke. So let's not scapegoat here. That's the first thing. I agree with you, however. The fact that the 11th Parliament didn't do anything doesn't mean that we shouldn't. As a member of Parliament, I'm not in the Health Committee, but I can confirm, as Dr. Selisimi was saying, that no report has been brought to the plenary on this issue so far. So my intervention would have to await a tabling of a report and the necessary interventions that would then follow. Thirdly, however, there is no law at all anywhere that stops the EACC from acting merely because Parliament is also looking into something. To the best of my knowledge, and as Dr. Selisimi says, and I think there's a report of this somewhere in my government in the Standard, that actually confirms that the EACC was investigating this matter. I think it is a natural and logical issue to ask the EACC how far it has gone with this investigation, because it is clear that this was a clear case of no value for money. This was a clear case of making money by individuals in the guise of improving health. Having said that, I think we've come to a very unfortunate spectacle on health generally. I've always said that by definition of the Constitution, health is not necessarily devolved. But by agreement in the first summit, the government chose to devolve the entirety of health. But while it devolved the entirety of health, it inexplicably chose to retain certain discretions and certain controls. Two examples. One is this one of portable clinics. Once and if health was devolved, then the question of the kind of clinics and how to design them and all that necessarily should have been left to the counties. And you would not have a situation where the national government brings all these funny-looking, expensive portable clinics, which are now at a yard. The other example is the county equipment leasing program, which again the national government did and imposed on the counties. So you have a situation where the national government chose and agreed to devolve health, but somehow keeps this unregulated need to make certain decisions of a financial nature and then impose them on the county. What we have now is so unbelievable that in this report, you have the regional commissioner, I think Mr. Elangata, you have the county commissioner, you have all sorts of people, the police commissioner, are now the ones dealing with health matters. Now, when the regional commissioner tells you that the equipment have not been vandalized, they're intact, just like me, I'm sure the regional commissioner has no idea what are the technical equipment. So he's in no position to say whether they've been vandalized or not. Now, I think that what should happen here, and Sally, I think, spoke to this, once you find yourself in a hole, you stop digging. We wasted money, people should be prosecuted, but now we need to ameliorate our losses. We need to have these clinics wherever they are, let them be distributed in whatever status. Let us see what use we can put to them, because as it were, it will be 100% loss. We'd rather at least try so that we save something like 30%.
So looking also at my government, the government has already taken a position that, yeah, it is intact. And it really beats the purpose maybe of investigating as a committee, because they already have a position on it. Let's hear from Isaac.
I think generally, Debarl, it's good to admit that parliamentary committees may not really have, they do not dig deeper to find the reality of some of these procurement issues. That is why, of course, there are independent offices now to look at this. And I think we have to be honest with each other. You see, now we are only revisiting these issues much, much later. Whoever may have been issued the tender has benefited. There is value for money. And there's a way in which generally, Debarl, people are becoming numb to these schemes of individuals. We make noise today, then tomorrow there is nothing much to show for it. And by the end of the day, we may want to look at how we build the capacity of Parliament to follow through issues, so that it is not just a question of after you have had to converse on issues in one Parliament, that then they die, without Parliament, and you almost have to start afresh. And of course, the high turnover of members of Parliament requires that then those who come in then have to almost start afresh. And that is why you can hear a very experienced legislator like Boni Khalwale now turning around and assuming as if he has not been into parliament. Yet actually he was the most vocal person on many issues, including Kimunya Must Go, the famous Kimunya Must Go. But generally, Debarl, we have a challenge. I think when the media has removed its focus on an issue, we can revisit, but then nothing much really happens. But generally, this is something that I would want to say that if you look at the amount of resources that have been left at the national level on a devolved function, I think it's totally unacceptable. We would have had more resources going to the counties, even with the gross misappropriation that we are seeing, but it doesn't justify the hangovers of the national government and its centrist views around matters that otherwise are under the purview of governors and the county assembly.
Right. Let's hear from Jacob Dio.
Yeah, but Debarl, I agree with Isaac, only to the extent that he may want to exonerate Parliament. It's not a parliamentary issue. These containers got to Kenya. As we watched, they were brought here by force. It's always good to judge, look back at history. These were not our wishes as a parliament, and then you can't criticize Boni because we didn't wish for them. We said, please improve the existing health facilities. And we tried to do so. But I think it is wrong to come on national television to try to exonerate the thieves. Who are the owners, or who are the owners of the containers? Why is not the DCI going after them? We come here every week to try to figure out who is stealing our money or public funds. Who is the thief? Why can't the face be put to this thing? They came, they were cleared, the procurement was done. Even the initial 3.8 billion shillings, who touched that money? Why can't we talk about the thief? I think it is only fair to Kenyans that when we come here, we are honest with ourselves. You, as the investigative authorities, the DCI, EACC, the police, and all that, who owns these containers? Who brought them? Where was the tendering done? What happened to our country? And that part, we must take a hold of. We must bring it back to ourselves. And I want to encourage Honorable Eseli Daktari, please tell Kenyans, even here, if so wish.
I can expound. Remember, this issue of containers is part and parcel of NYS 1. You remember the time they were doing slum upgrading and the NYS scandal broke. This is part and parcel of it, but from the Ministry of Health. These containers were imported by a company called Estama.
Yes?
Estama. They are the ones who won the tender. It was a restricted tender, not an open tender. So there are many things that we are looking at as to what transpired eventually to result in these containers here. So it's part of that previous...
So was there any rhyme or reason why it should have been a restricted tender?
That's what we are trying to say, that we are investigating all that, and it would be wrong for me to start talking about it here. But he said that I should say, give more information as to who. I would say it's Estama that imported them, that won the tender, which was a restricted tender, and those are the things that we are looking at. Then we'll come up with a report on it. But previously, there's been a report over the same, but that was in the last parliament, after the NYS 1 broke. So this was part of that slum upgrading program. Then the interesting thing is that they came in before they even had sites to take these containers to. Before they even had the sites. The Council of Governors do not like the whole idea, because who is going to to get the employees who's going to pay them, because already they are grappling with a high wage bill and things like that. So it's a very intriguing story, but I'm sure the committee is up to the task. We'll complete the investigation and make our investigation, our results public.
Okay.
But Mheshimiwa doesn't come here as a member of the Committee of Health. Mheshimiwa comes here for public discourse.
It's true, but as you know, Jacoyo, you know the standing orders, how they restrict us. So you cannot push me to go beyond what the standing orders allow me to do.
But you could have been the whistleblower, because you were in the Health Committee in the last Parliament and the Health Committee today. You can also say that you can, so far what you have found out points in this direction. Tell Kenyans, man, you know, people are watching us. We are not talking.
But I've just said that this was part of the NYS 1. What was NYS 1? It was a scandal of monumental proportions. And this was part of it. But coming from the Ministry of Health side. I think by saying that, I think I've said quite enough.
Thank you. I think Idea, as he says, is under investigation. But how do we trust that even after the investigation, we'll have a credible report? We've seen the sugar report as well. It was under an investigation.
We will make
the towing and throwing on it. Lastly,
we will make a report.
People were actually compromised.
We will make a report. It's up to Parliament to adopt that report. We cannot say that Parliament will adopt it or not adopt it, but we will make a report. Okay. And once we make a report, it's public. Like when the sugar report was, they refused to pass the sugar report. It was public. Once it's tabled in Parliament, it becomes a public document.
No, Debarl, that's not right. I want to disagree with my colleague. Because who owns the company that imported the things? That's what Kenyans want to hear. Are they powerful people? Why is Bonnie afraid? Why is my friend, the chairman, the member of the committee afraid?
Afraid of what?
Tell Kenyans who owns this company, because that's how you begin your investigation.
But that's what I said. We are
Tell
investigating.
Kenyans.
We have told you the company.
Okay,
No,
so we are investigating.
We cannot push to say
you're not going to impute
Debarl,
improper whatever
can I
motives
say something
on me.
this?
Oh, okay.
No.
I think,
just a moment. Yeah,
I think that Honorable Jacoyo Medigo got it right when he posed the question, and which is also what I said earlier, is that this issue arose in 2015. It is now 4 years later.
Yes.
What is the reason why we have not seen any concrete finalization of the investigation by the investigating agencies, including EACC? And yet they tell us that they have now revamped the idea of investigation and quick prosecution. That is true. And to the extent that we already even have the name of the company, Estama Investments, what is preventing finalization of that on that side? Now, I think that, Honorable Jacoyo, once you get it right there, I think that's where you should focus. Coming back to the parliamentary side, as I've indicated, to the best of my knowledge, at least so far as I'm in Parliament, nothing has come on the plenary. The legitimate question it raises is what should be the reasonable time that any committee of Parliament investigating something should take? Because if the investigation was started in the previous Parliament and it is on even up to now, there comes a time when it becomes irrelevant. But that said, I'm ready to protect Dr. Eseli Simiyu to the extent that the revamped standing orders becomes very tricky. The standing orders makes it, an abuse of parliamentary privilege to comment on any matter before the committee whose report has not been tabled. And therefore it becomes very tricky. There's no way, as Dr. Eseli, if you appear here, you say, now, let me speak, as an ordinary citizen from Tongaren and not as a member of the committee. Let me now speak as a medical doctor, because they're all intertwined. But that said, I agree. Scandals like this need a closure.
Yes.
The EACC needs to tell us. The government needs to distribute these things, whatever they are worth. And let's just hold people to account and move on.
Thank you. We need to take a short break right now also and have a closure on that. And just read some of your tweets as well. Dr. Jen Omwenga saying NYS Season 1 came to an end and nobody talked about those containers, and yet they were part of that. Tell us the truth, Eseli. Watch Ukora. This is what Dr. Jen Omwenga, she's saying. Also, we have Chalo Wood Rosie saying Kenya is full of quacks, including politicians. Corruption has ruined everything because officials concerned are sleeping on the job. Also, we have Fanny Kwega saying, why do we have an influx of quacks in the medical profession? The regulator must be asleep on his job. And people, if you must be a quack, can you at least be good at your job? And also, Bing Charlie says that the medical equipment leasing scandal and the mobile clinics linked to Afia House scandal is a clear indicator that health is technically developed, but resources for the same are not devolved. And lastly, Kiprono says the entire government system is broken down. The political seats, including the presidency, has been used to serve certain interests. The new DCI and the DPP, we're doing a good job, or we're doing a good job. It seems calls from State House are dragging them to ignore cases. This is Kiprono Langat saying this. Those are your reactions on Twitter. When we circle back, we continue with our discussion here, and also we shall be looking at what is on the front page of the Daily Nation as well. Graft, Sonko and Waititu and the probe. We saw that bizarre budget as well. We want to go deep on it as far as maybe people or from the executive or the upper reaches of government who come to defend people maybe who are being investigated or probed by the Senate committee. Where do we stand then, right? So when we circle back, we look at that, and after other issues don't go away. On the weekend, Deputy President William Ruto stoked fires when he publicly defended Kiambu Governor Ferdinand Waititu, who is at the center of a financial scandal that is under investigation by the Senate. Mr. Ruto, who occupies the second highest office in the land and who took oath to protect the rule of law, had the audacity to defend the governor on a matter that is essentially criminal. It goes against what he professes and undermines President Kenyatta's resolve to eradicate the virus. What that means is that the DP has no qualms about corruption and negates all efforts to tame the menace that is killing the country. And that is unfortunate for a person who aspires for the national presidency. He does not give confidence that he can be trusted with public resources. We've argued often that the challenge with corruption is that it is tightly intertwined with politics, power, and influence. It's those in authority and places of responsibility who loot from the public coffers and in turn use their influence and connections to fight off arrest and sanctions. Many corruption cases have stalled due to deliberately poor investigations, paralyzing the judicial process through dubious machinations or outright bribery of officers. Well, that is also what is headlining the front page of a Daily Nation today. And if you missed that particular bite, here it is.
Huyu baba yao asiwekewe msalaba ambayo sio yake. Aulizwe ya Kiambu, ile ya national government, sisi tuulizwe. Kwa hivyo wewe baba yao usikuwa na wasiwasi. Hiyo ya South Sudan, former president, sisi tutajibu. Wewe pambana na hii ya Kiambu, wewe ujibu hii ya Kiambu hapa.
And this is what is headlining the front page of the Daily Nation as well, and revelations also from other counties as well that do have such dubious, bizarre budgets. Graf Sonko and Waititu will be under probe. This is all about governance. Nairobi governor faces questions over sources or source of the cash he splashes around. Kiambu governor counterpart will feel abuse of office queries. And we've seen also the deputy governor of Kiambu as well says that, yeah, Ferdinand Waititu should step aside to, of course, allow investigations as well. Let's just hear from our panelists this morning as far as fighting corruption is concerned. And let's begin with Mtetezi, because now this is a position maybe you want also to weigh in as Mtetezi, Boni Mtetezi.
Yes, I think I want to start with the remark that little knowledge is extremely dangerous. When I listened to the Deputy President and I followed it on YouTube, he was speaking to generality. The generality being, if it is expenditure of public funds on a project of South Sudan or a project of national government, ask us. Don't ask the guy of Kiambu. But then, when you follow it further, you ask yourself, what does the law say? The law says as follows, Debarl, that there is no way a small expenditure, a big expenditure can be sneaked into budget. For the reason that, one, for any county government budget to receive approval, it must be scrutinized by the county assembly, led by the County Assembly Finance and Budget Committee. Two, upon approval, it is forwarded to the Office of the Controller of Budget in Nairobi. And the Controller of Budget must satisfy herself that the budget is within the law and the money is being applied to devolved functions. Once she makes that approval, then it is taken back to the county government now for implementation. And during implementation, we expect quarterly reports from the county assembly saying how her budget has been implemented. So to get one man in the name of the governor, it doesn't matter that it is Waititu. For all it cares, it could have even been my father if he was a county governor. And pin him down and forget that the due process involves not one, but several institutions is being simplistic. I believe that is what the Deputy President was speaking to. Now, to signify why this matter has to be given a global view, it is not only the Kiambu government which is involved. We have Kiambu, 937 million, Kwale, 939 million, Kirinyaga, 344 million, Garissa, 178 million, Kakamega, 75 million, Kitui, 61 million, and Lamu, 14 million. somebody should tell us, and that person is not two, it is one. I can see the Star in its usual erroneous reporting of issues. They are now pointing guns at the office of the Auditor General. The Auditor General does post-mortem. He has nothing to do with it. The person who must tell us is one Agnes Odhiambo. How did she, as the controller of budget, approve expenditure of this billion shillings on items that are not devolved? That is the way the debate should take place. And I want to go to page 7 of the same paper of the Star. They are showing the former leader of the opposition and currently the boss at the AU, Right Honorable Raila Odinga, now bashing the deputy president for defending governors. Members of the public, as you read this attempt on page 7, you should know that now the former prime minister is sulking at the fact that the deputy president seems to have won the confidentiality and loyalty of a majority of governors. If he was having anything serious to say, then he should have asked his deputy party leader, Wycliffe Ambedo Paranya, who, by the way, is also the chairman of the Council of Governors, to explain to him how these 7 governments got these allocations, including Oparanya's own government. So Raila should stop bringing in succession on every issue that comes up. It is very clear what the deputy president said.
But according to whose estimation are you actually coming up with this confidentiality report of yours that some of the governors, or Ruto, has won the confidence of his governors?
You should be privileged that I've given you that classified
No, I heard you also from other media houses saying that, oh, we have this particular 30% or 70%. I don't know where you got these figures.
Which 30% are you talking about?
When we're talking about, the sort of traction that Ruto is actually gaining on the ground.
Yeah, that's why I told you.
So I wanted to know from which particular polls.
That's why I wanted to tell you at the beginning that too little knowledge is dangerous. So some people who do not have the kind of information others have want to speak authoritatively on issues.
So too little knowledge, well, is it in the public domain, or this is a knowledge that is just a preserve of yours?
Some of us have a track record of living within the confines of facts only, and this is why even during our other life in Parliament, everything we prosecuted went through.
Well, I still don't get it. I still don't get it. I wonder this knowledge of yours, is it a preserve of Boni Khalwale alone, right? Let's say from Dr. Sel.
The country is in a very bad place. The country is in a very bad place because while we are facing this monster of, actually people are calling it corruption, I'm calling it outright theft of public resources, we are still trying to bring in politics and say this one should not blame this one because this one also stole. This one is talking about this, yet is also involved in this, because now we've reached a point where we are passing blame so that we can sort of sanitize ourselves. That if I'm accused of something, I say that if Otiende accused me of something, I say Otiende should not accuse me because he himself is accused of something else, you know. So we have reached that stage, and that's very dangerous. And I've seen something interesting that Boniface Mwangi, who tried to have a demonstration the other day of a few people and was disrupted, then was later on arrested and is being accused of trying to foment a revolution. And Boniface Mwangi has tweeted back and said, well, it's not a revolution. I mean, it's not a crime. A revolution it's not treason. It's not a treasonable offense. But we ourselves are courting that revolution, especially the leadership. We are courting that revolution because we are facing a big problem about impropriety in government. But instead of tackling it, we are busy passing blame and pointing fingers at each other instead of dealing with the actual problem. I know the reason why is what I said the last time I was here, that Kenya is just one large criminal enterprise. It's such a large criminal enterprise, and now by come 2022, there'll be a change of guard in the leadership of that criminal enterprise. And all criminal enterprises, like the mafia, when there's a change of guard, it's never usually smooth. is usually violent, because it's about who will eat most as the head of that criminal enterprise. And that's why our presidential elections are so charged and so chaotic, because we have refused to follow the rule of law. We have refused. We are good at making very good laws, but we are not good at following them. And then a certain category of Kenyans are above following any law at all. So I think what we are dealing with here, and let's not lose that problem. Let's not lose the problem that Kenya is facing at the feet of the Kielewekes and Tagatangas of this world. Because if we lose the problem at the feet of these two opposing political groups, then Kenya will actually, yes, and Boniface Mwangi would be right. We are causing a revolution, because like the president came to parliament and said, there will be no vigilante, whatever. What did you call it? Vigilante justice. And my answer to him is this. Vigilante justice comes when people realize that they are not getting the sort of response they expect from the criminal justice system. That these criminals are just going loose and they are not being arrested, they are not being taken into jail. Then the vigilante justice then comes in. So if the president doesn't want vigilante justice, they should ensure that the organs tasked with stamping out corruption are actually doing the job. Because if they are not, then I'm worried that Boniface Mwangi could be right and he might foment a revolution. And then, because Kenyans know who the thieves are. They know.
Right.
It's not like they don't know them.
Thank you.
And if they decide to revolt and go for those thieves, it will be terrible.
Right. Before we come to Dr. Otieno Amolo, there was a very interesting editorial cartoon as well. And you mentioned that Kenya is an entire criminal enterprise.
Yeah, everybody just tries to find a niche.
Everyone is trying to find a niche. But this was actually the Kenya monopoly, if you may just look at it. These people who determine actually the future of Kenya, if we may just pick up on this editorial cartoon that was there, Kenya monopoly, and we can see everyone has his own shares of what they really want to hold. We have the banks and the dairy and the real estate also for Antoinette there. We have Arab Singh as well. Our Arab Singh side, we have Mashamba. You can see the word of cash as well. Also now joining the table is, this is Tinga. And there also on Arab Singh, we can see the dams, the Mashamba, the maize. And here we have sugar. We have some of other scandals as well that we cannot truly see. Scams as Eurobond, Mafia, NYS, all that jazz. You say this is a criminal enterprise. This is a true picture of Kenya?
Yeah,
if you look at, well, Dr. Tenamol, you can comment on this as well.
I have limited comment on that particular cartoon. I think it appeared some weeks back. All that I can say is that while it largely depicts some of the realities, I was trying to see on Tinga's side what the scandals are, and I'm seeing sugar. And I can't figure out what that sugar is about. Because on the contrary, coming from where sugar is grown, I think the sugar issue is where there is no scandal. In fact, it's where the farmers are suffering and all the industries are dead. So instead of it being, I think it's a scandal by maybe by omission rather than any commission. But let me come back to what we were discussing presently. And I've listened keenly to Dr. Halwale. And I'm now convinced that his transformation from Boni Mtetezi to Boni Tangatanga is complete. I listened to his response to your question, and with due respect, it is gibberish. Dr. Halwale started by saying, little knowledge is dangerous, and I tried to listen to where the little knowledge comes in. I didn't hear. He then goes on to say you cannot pin down a governor for a budget, but goes ahead to pinpoint the governor of Kakamega as one who ought to be vilified. He then goes to talk about it is not only Kiambu, there are also other counties, and mentions them, and caps all this by bringing Raila's name and says that Ruto has won the favor of most of the governors. I have no idea what he was talking about in terms of the question that was posed. So let me come back to the question. Listening to the deputy president defend the governor of Kiambu, it clearly demonstrates that the deputy president has made peace with impunity. although he's the second in command of the entity that is primarily charged with ensuring there's no impunity, with ensuring there's no corruption, with ensuring there's good governance, he has no problem standing in public. And although the investigative agencies are going on with their work, telling the country that there's nothing wrong that the governor of Kiambu has done. That is very sad. And that demonstrates that while Dr. Eseli Simiyu thinks that we have sunk as low as we can, clearly it shows there's still space down there. We can actually go lower. And that's what we need to worry about. A number of things ought to be very clear. First, the idea that counties can load this kind of expenses that do not belong to them is in itself improper. It is an impropriety and failure by the county assembly, because the county assemblies pass those budgets. There's also a sense in which the Office of the Controller of Budget must be asked to confirm whether indeed they approve those budgets, because you cannot approve a budget for a county for a function which belongs to national government unless there's a clear document that shows under Article 186 and 187 of the Constitution that although this function is for national government, there has been a request by national government that the counties come in, or a particular county comes in, and that the budget line for it is as follows. And that then brings you to the third aspect in terms of auditing. That's where the Auditor General comes in. The Auditor General will come in and ask the question that even if this budget was approved for peacekeeping in the Sudan, did you actually spend it for peacekeeping in the Sudan? And if you didn't, then the Auditor General must rightfully question that line of expenditure. So what the Auditor General is doing is completely correct. The fact that there are other counties that may have hidden similar provisions does not make the Kiambu governor's case a good one. It only shows that there are more counties to be probed. Now, once that is done, then you can move to the next stage in terms of the necessary prosecutions and all. But I think the more fundamental question is this. The issue in Kiambu and the issue in some of those counties and the defense of the Kiambu governor by the deputy president, the issue of the expenditure by governors like Sonko and Waititu, speaks to what I've always talked about, the nexus between politics and corruption in this country. The nexus between politics and corruption is so deep that unless we find a way of breaking that umbilical cord, it will always be a problem. Kenyans are very quick to condemn leaders. Kenyans are very quick to condemn corruption. The irony is, Kenyans condone corruption when it comes to elections. There are so many MPs, so many governors who are elected only because of the amount of money they produce. And so if you went anywhere and there were two leaders and one is full of integrity, and you say, elect me because I am full of integrity, and because of that, I don't have any money to give you, and another one comes and says, leave that man alone, here is the money, vote for me. Trust me, they will vote for the one with the money. And they will ask the other one, why is it that you don't have money? But when they vote for the one with money, and because they need to sustain that money, they go and steal more money, then they condemn them. So we also need to look into ourselves. We need to educate ourselves. We need to look into ways and means of avoiding people without integrity, but with lots and lots of money, and some of them are doing that even now. When Bonnie tells you that he is sure, and we can have that discussion another time, that they've now bagged the majority of, of governors, what is he saying? What is he saying? He's saying that they've bought them. What does that speak to? It tells you, just when we thought we've sunk as low as one can go, we can sink even deeper.
Right. Isaac. No, you will get it right. Response, just a moment. Let's hear from Isaac.
I think this is, it has been proven many years before. Tiberius, the emperor of Rome, when he did away with the plebeian assembly, which is really was a congregation of the citizenry, the hoi polloi, in exchange he gave them free wine, pork, and bread, and that is now what really has been mastered very well. Politicians, Debarl, do not communicate to the mind. It's too difficult to reason. It is too, challenging. But people communicate to the stomach and to the heart. That is the art of political communication. And it has been proven many times that those who communicate to the heart and to the stomach are more successful than those who are voices of reason. I think it's totally unacceptable. I come from Kiambu County. I was part of the people who are questioning Waititu, and rightfully so, because I vote on many times on Kiambu County. And Bonnie is here. He knows about the delegations in Senate. And let us not try to bring Tanga and Kieleweke debates in this issue. If Waititu has misappropriated funds, he has misappropriated funds on his own account. One, there is a variance between the IFMIS reports and what is in the book of accounts. A case in point is Thika level 5, where there is a variance of 41 million that was actually dispensed under IFMIS, but cannot be found in the records of Thika level 5. There are issues to do with funds that are supposed to be charged on a development budget. They are charged on recurrent. There are so many unsupported payments for workers, and this could be ghost workers, amounting to about 500 million. There are 12 undisclosed accounts, 12 of them, amounting to 291 million. There are 11 stalled projects, amounting to 341 million. There are interests that cannot be accounted for, amounting to 151 million. The pending bills, there is a variance. There is a pending bill of 2.3 billion. Let me take you through. 2.3 billion. And even when you look at the IFMIS versus what is recorded in the books of accounts, still there is a variance of about 125 million. Debarl, the issue of when the Kiambu County account was closed, the year under review, 30th June 2018, it had a balance of 107 million. But on 1st of July, miraculously, the balance is nil. The balance is nil. The amount of revenue collected in Kiambu County in this same year came down by a whopping 400 million. As a result, the CRA formula could not allocate us another 600 million. So we lost a whole billion as a result. Monies meant for roads and the fuel levy have been misappropriated. So this is not a question of politics. This is a question of wanton theft. And when Ferdinand Waititu, he of the Punjab school, he who has a master's from Kemu, tells us that he has been working in Nairobi County and all the tractors in Nairobi, the excavators, were his. You don't use figurative language to confuse the common man. We are not fools. Even as we have been working for so long, and houses don't grow just like that because all of a sudden you are governor. You know, let me tell you something that would shock you. I was part of the campaign of one Governor Waititu. In fact, we really got into machinani with him when I was running for MP. But I was shocked one day when we were with him at the parliamentary gym, when he told me point blank, Mwaura, when we get into parliament, we must steal. Because when we get into government, we must steal. Because Raila Odinga stole money under kazi kwa vijana. And even the money that he was said to have stolen is much more. He stole 3.4 billion. By the way, at that point is when I disengaged. So people are making budgets to steal. And even if today we were to say that the module, the template, because I asked him that question about, he said it's a wrong template. Even if the template was wrong, you can come and say, if MIS is generating this template, but this expenditure is supported by this approved budget, for this and this, these are the vouchers. But that is not the case. We are having people hiding under these titles. And that is to mean, Debarl, even if it is not Kiambu County or any other counties, the other counties that Bonnie has talked about here.
Yes.
We need to know, because these monies, for example, in the case of Kiambu, they were used 100%. What were they used for? If you are saying this is a fake report, show us the genuine one. But you cannot come here and start saying, oh no. Look at Sonko, for example. He has 3 billion balance that was not declared. I mean, and yet we can see he is wearing, according to media reports, golden shoes worth 16 million in this Nairobi. The other day I saw him chewing miraa and asking people to text him on his M-Pesa where he could send them 2,000 shillings. I mean, this 1 ton, I mean, people, like the way Edward Clay said, you're vomiting on our shoes. People just the other day when we were campaigning had literally nothing. Today they are seeking opulence.
Thank you.
Let me just say this. Kiambu, the other day, the head of accounts was caught with cash money. It is it's in the public domain. 26 million and another $6 million, ostensibly to go and buy a house. So what we are saying, stop the politicking. This is not about succession.
Right.
And let us not be dishonest in the war against corruption. If you have stolen and you're in Tanga, you are a thief. If you've stolen and you're Kieleweke and you have stolen public land or whatever, you are a thief.
Thank you. Thank you. Giacomo Midio, you want to comment on this as well?
One big criminal enterprise, Debarl. One big criminal enterprise. I think it is the biggest invention of Dr. Eseli. One big criminal enterprise. And I think...
The bandit economy, as William Mutunga would put it.
Yes. I hope you didn't say Debalik. Bandit, eh? Because, you know, now you are even accused of not having facts. But Bonnie was trying to disparage you for talking without facts. And that Debarl is not knowledgeable. I love you because I think you are very knowledgeable. And I can tell Bonnie, please stay off the bar. That's for a fact. But one big criminal enterprise, because that's who we are. When you hear people throwing words, especially on this issue of corruption, why would we want to not speak the truth? And why would a former chairman of Public Accounts Committee, both National Assembly and Senate, not want to talk the truth? Why would you fear investigations? Somebody talked about Sudan. I mean, I am really struggling to understand how we would get to a budget line of Sudanese government from Kiambu County. I would really want to understand why a governor of Nairobi would refuse to have a deputy and would tell people, give me your numbers, I'll send you 2,000 shillings. I mean, suppose you were to send 100,000 people 2,000 shillings, Debarl. Would it be, what portion of our budget as a country would that constitute? Something is obviously wrong. What I think we need to ask, in the case of Waititu, how many buildings are said to have been bought by Kiambu money in the last 1.5 years in this town? I think we need to really be real if we want to fight corruption, because I think we are almost there. And I think when Moora says Waititu told him that Raila, for example, stole 1.4 billion shillings in youth fund, which ministry was under Raila when he was government? We are using details which don't make sense so that we can cover up the current theft. And Bonnie, let me just tell you as a brother, because I love you as a brother, and I know where you belong. You don't belong on that other side. You belong on the side that says the truth. When the deputy president comes out and says that that the issues of Kiambu County belongs to the national government, I think you need to advise him, and advise him appropriately. Tell him, my brother, wachana na hiyo, because I think that is the work of the Auditor General. I've seen so many criticisms of the work of Auditor General recently. And I think it's because we are getting there. Waititu must explain these issues. The issues are so obvious. I watched Waititu on KTN, by the way, which is your rival media. I watched him. He never gave a reason for the theft. He refused. He could not explain why we should understand his issues. And I don't think it is our business. For me and you, Debarl, it's for us to expose issues. And this is why we wake up every morning to come here to do that kind of work. And I think it is wrong for us as a panel to try to disparage the Auditor General. It's not our issue. Yeah.
All right, Boni Khalwale.
Yes, right of response. I think, my brother Molo, it would help both the viewers and even your own integrity if you spend your time on this panel articulating that which you want to say, rather than spend it on telling people what you think I said and meant, when the people all the time, when they were listening to me, they heard what I thought I wanted to say and what I said. Now, there are three things you want to look at. And the first one is, I have clearly, Otiende, said that to decipher this jigsaw that we are now faced with, which we all condemn, there is one person who can give clarity. And I've told you, that person is not the Auditor General. That person is the Controller of Budget. I want to invite you to go to Article 228 of the Constitution that creates the Office of the Controller of Budget. And they say the Controller of Budget shall not approve any withdrawal from a public fund unless satisfied that that withdrawal is authorized by law. 2, the Controller of Budget shall oversee the implementation of budgets of the national and county governments by authorizing withdrawals from public funds. So now, if the Controller of Budget received these particular budgets and approved them, she is the last person to come and tell us, I was informed by the following reasons for me to allow a county government to allocate money and spend money on a function which is not devolved. That does not mean I'm supporting corruption. Now, just to show you how this thing has been politicized, the paper is telling you on page 1.
Which paper?
The Standard, today's Standard, is telling you on page 1 that 11 counties spending goes way beyond Waititu's. And now, when you want to now bring in the fact that I was Oparanya's opponent, and that's why I'm bringing in his name, please spare me that kind of mediocrity. It is the Standard which has listed Kakamega as being number 1. It spent, in fact, more than Waititu. My last point on this issue, Debarl,
yes,
is again in the same paper on page 4, on page 8.
Page 8 of the Standard?
Of the Standard, okay? On page 8 of the Standard, they are quoting the county government of Laikipia, and I quote, the county government executive, Mr. Murungi Nandi, is saying the budget that we presented to the Controller of Budget had no such items. The Auditor General's report is erroneous. We did not put such allocations. Somebody must have put them there to achieve some end. So instead of just jumping and saying that all these governors are thieves, let us look at the global picture and ask the person who under the Constitution should have prevented this in the first place.
Thank you. So from your own assessment, you think actually the COB, there
Yes.
is a commission of budgets.
The control of budget.
Control of budget actually approved this.
He did. She
No,
did.
but she has actually distanced herself from this. And we have reports on that. I wonder from what knowledge you're actually talking about. And Bonnie, you're telling us you're very knowledgeable this morning. She actually says this.
If I may conclude,
just a moment.
Tell me.
She says that.
But also the bar.
Yes.
Even if Agnes Odhiambo may have approved,
She didn't. She said.
no, it may have approved items that are in the purview of the national government. If counties are accountable, they should be telling us, yes, we got this money under this vote, but we spent the monies on this and this and this. But they're not saying that. Yeah. So that means they are culpable. They may have actually been the ones benefiting from this.
yeah,
I will not allow you. I will not allow you.
Sorry, I just want to give you some direction.
Yes.
You need to remember, this has been in the news before, that some county assemblies have actually complained that the budgets they pass are not the budgets that are being used by the government.
And
Kiambu is one of them.
Exactly. That's why
Turkana is one of them.
Yes.
So it does mean that some governors are playing around with the budgets.
With the budgets.
And then they take a template from the national government because of their lack of capacity. They don't even understand the template they are carrying, and then they just fix in figures.
Which means, SLE,
And then they
which
say
means
something
we are
used 100%.
literally speaking the same thing, only that what is confusing us is we think we are heading in different directions. The point I'm making is this, that the control of budget cannot run away just by simple utterance that I did not, because the Constitution says in Article 228 that for any withdrawal to be made, it cannot be done without her approval. And already, the monies that were allocated to functions that are not devolved, already like in the case of Kiambu, out of the 937, already 903 has been spent. That expenditure could not have been made without the approval of the control of budget. So we need to push pressure on the
What was it spent on?
Senator Maura, we are losing the issue here.
Yes. Yeah.
Dr. Halwale wants us to engage in this question of whose mandate is it to approve the budgets and who authorizes before the money is withdrawn. But that's not the issue. Actually, Dr. Halwale, we are with you on that. I started by saying that in terms of the budgets, the control of budget must be asked, the county assembly that parties the budget must be asked,
True.
and then once the money is spent, the Auditor General comes to audit. But that is not what we are talking about. Yes. What we are talking about is it right for the Deputy President to defend that situation rather than condemn it? Yes. The question that was posed to you, which is why I was on you, is that now you are saying we all condemn it. You should say it more clearly. And you should say, like we are saying, that the Deputy President was wrong to praise and protect rather than condemn it. That is the entire issue. Because if it goes that way, it's not only Kiambu that is going to not condemn, he is going, for all those other counties we are mentioning, he will say, that is not your business to answer. And we are saying that is very dangerous for this country. That's all we are saying. We are not saying anything else.
All right, Jaco, you wanted to say something, then
Yes,
we
I
close,
wanted to say something.
close on it, please.
I think Bonnie must be very clear, because I think Kenyans are watching. Now that we are on top of this issue about fight on corruption, we must be very clear, Debarl. And this show, the reason we come is because we are always very clear. When you say, for example, that the DP was right in defending Waititu, or when you say he was not right, or when you are silent, you're not helping Kenyans. You know, only last week, Gidong, whom Bonnie defended on the floor of the House, Bonnie Halwale, when this issue of Anglo-leasing came on the floor, Bonnie was so, he said it must be sorted out the Gidong way. He was the chairman of our park. Yeah. He was the chairman, Bonnie was so emphatic that Gidong was right. It is wrong for Bonnie to come here one early morning and say that it is just okay. Because the Waititu case is just a fraction of the Gidongo imaginations. Just a fraction, a small fraction. How is it that a whistleblower can be fined 27 million shillings by our courts, Debarl, for protecting Kenyan good? Bonnie was there with me when the SGR thing happened. So he cannot even blame Agnes Odhiambo. He cannot, because SGR payments are also authorized by Agnes Odhiambo. But SGR is said to be the most capital project, the most expensive capital project in the history of Africa, the SGR in Kenya. So let us criticize this corruption in totality.
Okay.
And I wanted to say just one last thing, Debarl, because I think we are out of time. The 30% that Bonnie claims that they have in their quest for presidency of 2022, we will get there. But send Bonnie home by asking him, if you have 30%, where is the 70%?
See, there's something here. You know, what we are dealing with here is clear. It's very clear to anybody to see. The essence of corruption is to confuse. When the corrupt want to get away, they confuse you. As in your confusion, they get away. And meanwhile, they want to blame the controller of budget, they want to blame the auditor general, they want to blame everybody else except themselves. And meanwhile, you get so confused. Where did this budget come from? Was it passed by the assembly? Did the controller of budget pass it? Did who pass it? As you are confused like that, they get away with it. The fact is, this is not even corruption. This is just outright theft.
I think 2 quick points. The first one is that it is very clear, and it was clear to me very early in the life of devolution. In fact, without me, we would not today be having the Public Accounts and Investment Committee of the Senate. It was, and Amolo is here, it was an oversight when we were now drafting the committees of the Senate at the advent of the new constitution. And I want to thank Editorial. He supported me, and we created that committee. Let me tell you, it was born out of the realization that a county assembly has no capacity in its current configuration to oversight a governor. The governor will have helped probably the majority of members of that county assembly to get elected, or they will be from his majority party, and therefore to expect them to oversight him effectively was difficult. This role should have gone to the Senate, and I think the oversight role of the county assemblies should totally be given to the Senate. The second little point I want to make is my brother Jakoyo. Sasa, what do you want a whistleblower to do? A whistleblower like Kidongo, who you have correctly said that I defended and you defended, he did his work. But when challenged in court to prove that he was not slandering Murungaru, the court gave him an opportunity to defend himself. And he had 2 witnesses. For 13 years, Honorable Jakoyo, for 13 years, the second witness who would have helped Kidongo to prove his case has been refusing to come to court. That witness, the star witness who would have saved Kidongo from being punished, Secretary General of my party, was Raila Amolo Odinga. He refused to go to court so as to support his allegation to Kidongo that he had information that Murungaru stole. So poor Kidongo is ending up with a penalty of 27 million, something that would have been saved if Raila had gone to court and defended the evidence he gave Kidongo. I want to urge the former Prime Minister that we can only conclude the fight against corruption in court, not in funerals, not in homecomings outside the institutions of the judiciary. And therefore, it was a serious oversight or fight against the attempt to acquire justice for him to have refused to go to court to defend the evidence he gave Kidongo, which has cost Kidongo 27 million.
But just a moment. No, just a moment. As we're winding up, also, Mother Karua has condemned the court ruling that awarded that 27 million shillings to Chris Murungaru as damages for defamation. She says the decision was unfair since Murungaru had been removed from office over these very allegations. She also says former ethics PS, that is Kidongo, claims were not defamatory. And she supports the move to appeal the verdict.
Well,
that's
very good. Can we say something on that?
Please, as we're winding up also, because we've got a few minutes to go.
First, the facts show that Kidongo is appealing. So I think it's not a foregone conclusion.
He's a what?
He's appealing the decision.
Yeah.
I share in the view that even that amount of money is not commensurate. The courts have, in recent years, reduced tremendously the amount of money you can be awarded for defamation, and it's no longer those figures. So I support the appeal. But secondly, I think it is fair when you allow Bonnie to make those kinds of allegations that the second witness has failed to come for 15 years to actually explain them. Because I am not aware of any situation where Kidongo has claimed that Raila was his witness and failed to come. So Bonnie ought to explain it. Because if a witness is invited to come to court and does not, the obvious mechanism is to issue a summons. I'm not aware of any invitation. I'm not aware of any summons. I would have thought, and I'm not privy to Kidongo's case, that his star witness would have been the person he was employed to advise at that time, and that was the President of the Republic of Kenya. That was Mwai Kibaki. And he is the one to whom he submitted the dossier. And it is Kibaki who took the consequential action. So in terms of who would be the star witness, I don't know where Bonnie comes with that from. But that said, I think that signals such as that, and I'm not saying anything more about the technical aspect of Kidongo's case because I was not privy to it. I support the idea of appealing it so that even if he had failed to prove his case, even if it was clear defamation, there still remains the question of was the award reasonable in the circumstances?
Thank you.
And it is not. The last statement is on the Star headline. The idea of governors saying you should investigate some auditors because they are seeking bribes. I think this is subterfuge. The law is clear. If there is any individual who seeks any bribe from anyone, then the governors and their staff members must report them individually. They cannot hide under these guys to try and reduce the impact of the Auditor General's report.
Closing remarks?
I think,
10 seconds.
I think,
Closing remarks. Eseli.
The national government, and now it's been joined by the county governments, they are actually fomenting revolution, especially in a situation where there is failed investigations, failed prosecutions, such that now it's reached a stage where when Kenyans make noise and say, arrest the criminals, what they do, they arrest Swazuri and Kidero. Then we stay again. After some time, when Kenyans make noise and say, arrest the criminals, they arrest Kidero and Swazuri. Are those the only criminals? We want the real other criminals. Let me just finish.
Thank you. Then 10 seconds over.
The two Tanga and Kielekwe teams, we are tired of their impudence, we are tired of their insolence, we are tired of their arrogance and disrespect.
Thank you.
These are war against corruption.
That is for another show. Thank you. Let's hear from Isaac. 10 seconds. Winding up.
Yeah, I think let us not introduce ad hominem arguments here so that we can justify the fight against corruption. It does not make it any right because whoever is accused shares with you, share your political views, that then they should be exonerated from accountability.
Thank you.
It's just listen, Debarl.
10 seconds.
The issue we are talking about here is that Waititu has a case to answer. He has 45 days to come back to the Senate to give his version of the story. But as it stands now, there are glaring anomalies. We have cases of where 190 million has been paid to lawyers for legal fees, and there are only 5 cases before the county government. So really, this is not about Tanga, it's not about Kieleweke, it's about accountability and the value for money for Kiambu people.
No, me have spoken.
All right, let's hear from the Jacoy.
Yes, Debarl, Bonnie. Leave Agnes Odhiambo alone. For many reasons. She has not been scandalous. She is I think she has been a good public servant. But what we need to talk about, Debarl, going forward, we must stop politicians from protecting graft.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Right. Bonnie, lastly.
Yesterday, the president extended the term of Mwadade. Kenyans must put pressure on the president. He cannot deny Lieutenant General Kibochi and Lieutenant General Ngondi an opportunity to serve this republic. By so extending, the two senior officers who have proudly served this country will be knocked out by the 60-year rule, so that 12 months later, they will not be available for appointment. The president should clarify whether he's deliberately preparing a preferred successor.
Thank you.
No.
10 seconds are over. Keep me time as well.
I can conclude my point.
All right. Just a moment. No. Let him
yes,
finish.
he's the commander-in-chief, but he's accountable to us. You are not the president. You only happen to come from Kiambu.
All right. And of course, so we know...
let me conclude. Let me conclude. As Kenyans, we are equal. We are not going to support a situation whereby a military officer like Kiboshi and Ngondi, who have served this country and deserved to serve at the helm, are denied
Thank you, Bonnie.
machinations.
Right, and of course, we are given to understand that that was the advice of the Defense Security Council. So we cannot say that it's solely the volition of the president that he had actually to extend Mwadede's term. Thank you very much, our panelists. We really do appreciate. And I've just read also some of, as we're winding up, I am, well, Mayor is saying, I'm looking forward to Mwaura Isaac replacing Kimani Wamatangi, who avoided the show today because he doesn't want to discuss Kiambu budget, right? And of course, we're not saying he did avoid the show today. Kimani Wamatangi, where you are. Right? And lastly, if we go by the figures Senator Mwaura is stating as misappropriated by Governor Waititu of Kiambu, my question is to DCI Uhuru or EACC, why is Waititu free, not behind bars? Do we need FBI, Scotland Yard or KGB to prove Waititu corrupt on, or he is not corrupt as well? This is what Samuel Ruto is saying here. Thank you for your contribution as well, and our panelists really do appreciate also your contribution this morning. Thank you. You've been watching People and Politics here on AM Live.